Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to Unmasking the Dark Side, episode 12. So, I wouldn't be an honest man, and I wouldn't be a fair man if I did not include an examination of Christianity in this series. That I've examined everything and everyone in this series. I've taken you back in time to the very beginning of the search for the root of the dark side. And I think that few people could defend modern Christianity as we see it in its many forms today, with everything from pedophile priests to hypocritical television preachers who both the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church are guilty of pursuing wealth and financial gain and power and riches in a way that almost everyone would see as ungodly and not the way that good people should act. And that there is undoubtedly a rotten core in Catholicism right now around pedophiles and the protection of pedophiles and the covering up of things like sex trafficking. And I could turn this into one great big Catholic bashing moment, except for one thing. You can't bash the Catholics and get deep into what's wrong with their religion. You know, get to the root of where their doctrine is off, or what situation allowed them to get in the position that they're in. You can't do that without also applying it to Protestants as well. Because what few Protestants understand is that your order of service, that little card that they give me when I'm a piano player at your church that tells me, you know, what to expect in the service, that from sea to shining sea, from around the globe in every nation, country, kindred, tongue, and spirit, that order of service is almost identical, and that it's the Mass. It's the Mass. It's the same thing. How do I know? Well, and this is why I can't really go on the attack with Catholicism. It's why I have to attack Catholicism, because I've been an ordained Catholic priest. If you don't know how that happened, how I ended up getting ordained into the Catholic Church, go see my video, How I Became a Catholic Priest. And it tells the story of how I, as a Protestant minister, got accepted into the Mexican National Catholic Church and ordained. And part of that ordination process was that I learned the Mass, the doctrine behind it, the meaning of it, what it's all about, and why it should be presented in the order it's presented in. And as a Protestant coming into Catholicism, I looked at that and went, oh, that's just like the order of service. And the ideas behind it are still reflected in Protestant churches, and there's not a lot of difference. I mean, when you get down to what is going on. And so I could turn this into a tearing down of Christian symbols, and I mean things as simple as, why do we go to church on Sunday? Things as simple as what the cross, why the cross existed as a symbol before Christ. And I could get into what Catholics mean when they do the Eucharist and what that really is all about, and how that could be a sign of the dark side, the way that they're interpreting some of this doctrine and ideology. It's the practices, it's the ceremony, the liturgy itself, when analyzed and broken down. It's not really related at all to Jesus. It's not really related at all to the Bible. It's really related more deeply to the mystery Babylon religion. And this is why this video is hard for me to make, because as a Christian, as a man who is engaged in all of this ceremony and all of its various forms in Christendom, I feel like I can't unmask the dark side without explaining to you that the Christian church has been infiltrated by a serpent cult that worships demonic spirits. They have taken their ceremonies and made them ours. And I could go into a lot of detail about each one of these images, from Easter. Really, even the name of it is about Esther, a goddess of fertility from the Roman pantheon. I could go and talk about all of these different things, like the real meaning and the reason why popes and bishops wear that mitre hat. Even the altar and the pulpit that you stand behind. So I could tear down the Christian church, but what I would rather do is show you that true Christianity is the following of Christ, not the church. It's the following of the Rhema word in your heart and your relationship, not the worship of tradition. That a personal relationship with Christ is powerful and the true nature of Christianity, and that we should commune with one another, and we should meet with one another, which is what we're doing here. If you're on this channel and you're a person of faith, well, we're meeting with one another to discuss these things and to support one another, and keep each other accountable. But religion in and of itself, the act of the ritual, most of you Protestants don't have a clue as to why you do things the way you do them. And it's because your churches have all been born from the poison fruit of Catholicism. Catholicism at its roots was infiltrated. And I could prove this to you, but there's so many better videos with pictures and imageries to show you that when Constantine, the Roman emperor, decided that instead of trying to stamp out Christianity, he was going to absorb it into the state and make it the state religion of Rome, that St. Constantine, he's the one that canonized the Bible and said what was God's word and what wasn't God's word. That when that happened, that instead of Christendom banishing paganism from the Roman Empire, that the fact that what was really going on was the Roman Empire was so eat up with paganism, there is no way that a new religion could come in and wipe them out, short of killing everyone. And so what history has taught us, and what the church would like you to believe, and I'm sorry, I'm sharing a hurtful, real truth here with you. It hurts me. It's like I'm stabbing myself because I'm a child of the church. But the bottom line is, the Sabbath is on Saturday. We go to church on Sunday for purely pagan reasons. That Christmas is really a pagan holiday. So is Easter. That everything from right down to the order of service and the way that we have church is more closely related to paganism than it is to anything Jesus ever did. And that I'm a primitivist, and I've tried to go in and figure out what was going on before Constantine. Because when Constantine got a hold of it, he was going to drive that square peg into that round hole, and he didn't care if it destroyed the faith along the way. That he had to make a state religion out of this upstart ideology that was so diversified that no one could agree then, and we still can't agree today on what all of this means. But at that moment, when pagans were looking at either assimilating into Christianity or being forced out of the Roman Empire, they assimilated into Christianity, and instead of it changing them, they changed it. And the papacy evolves from paganism, and the hierarchy of the clergy evolves from paganism, and all manner of different ceremonial headdresses, clothing, the calendar. I mean, just look at the way Easter, for instance, is measured. Easter is the first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox. That is an astrological way of picking a day, and that's why it falls on a different day of the, a different week all the time, because those vary, because the calendar is out of sync with the lunar calendar. So that's a lunar calendar, a astrological calendar, not a sun calendar. And, the way that we figure the time on that is the exact way that they always figured the Ishtar, Esther spring festival, the pagan festival that pre-existed Christianity in the Roman Empire. And that even if you're a Protestant, in so many ways, you're still a Roman Catholic. And a lot of Christians are going to hate on me, but I think I'm just being fair, because I'm not trying to press one ideology above the other. What I'm trying to do in this series is find out where the devil is and expose it to the light. Because the light of the truth burns the evil demonic skin of those serpents. They just can't stand it. It cuts them to the core. It makes them triggered. It triggers them. And so I'm all about swinging that sword of truth and light. And it wouldn't be... I wouldn't be a fair and righteous man if I didn't swing that sword back towards Christianity. And I think that it's hard to defend modern Christianity as it is today. And I'm not condemning people. I know that there are good people in every religion who are trying to find God, and they're seeking the truth. And unfortunately, they're being misled in so many ways. That's why you have to listen to the Rhema word in your heart. That's why you have to listen to the Christ inside of you. That's why you cannot trust men. You cannot trust even because they'll tell you what to think. They'll show you these things that are pagan in nature, tell you what you should believe they mean, and trick you into worshiping devils. I feel sick to my stomach to know that I have been tricked into worshiping devils. Now, am I saying that you should just do away with Christian holidays because they're pagan? That we shouldn't celebrate any of these holidays? I don't know. I think once it's done, it's done. You know, I mean, are we going to all start going to church on Saturday now? Is Sunday the new Saturday and Saturday the new Sunday? You know, are we going to start changing our religious ideologies and dropping those things? Or are we going to give up holidays? Or maybe we should take the holidays and make them about God, make them about what they should be about anyway. And I ignore that they're on the specific day that used to be a pagan holiday. I mean, that's what happened. You know, they inserted Christianity into the Roman culture, and the Roman culture sucked it in, and it adapted. And what you have is this hybrid mix of Christianity and Roman paganism that goes all the way back to Mystery Babylon. So, of all of the things that have been corrupted, I think the church was corrupted so early on that it's hard to separate what is true from what is pagan. And to think that your Protestant church is not pagan because it's not Catholic, well, you're more Catholic than you think you are, and you just don't know it because you don't know why you do the things you do. You think they're tradition when really they're steeped in Catholic tradition. Should we throw everything out because the Catholics use the door? Should we climb in through the window? You know? Catholics go to church in their cars. Should we crawl on our hands and knees to church just to be different? I mean, where do you draw the line? How do you salvage a faith out of all this? And I can't help but think, in some ways, it has to die, and it has to fall to the ground, and it has to be reseeded by the faith of the true believers to sprout into something new, something different, and something more in line with what Jesus intended. You know, they've turned the Eucharist into the Lord's Supper. They've turned it into what do you want to call it? A tradition, a ceremony, a mystic magic spell, when I believe it was really just a meal together. That it was just us Christians getting together and eating together and remembering Jesus and what he did, and remembering how it was his life, his burial, and his resurrection that unites us all in love. And everything else you pile on Christianity, honestly, it comes from another place. And that true Christianity, true religion, at its nature should be something primitive and personal and small in scope and scale, quietly powerful. And all of this flamboyance and all of this flash and pomp and circumstance and all of it comes from a place that just doesn't jive with the Jesus that I know. It doesn't line up. It doesn't harmonize with the Jesus I know. The Jesus I know was a man of humility. He would never wear all of those robes and clothes and carry the mitre and the this and the that and the Latin and the blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to be like Jesus, and I feel like I'm closer to being like Jesus than a lot of preachers are. Because I used to be one of them, and I quit. Because I think they've all got it all wrong. So, anyway, I'm unmasking the dark side, even when it goes to places that's hard to talk about, places that are close to home for me. I'm a son of the church. I love gospel songs. I talk to Jesus. He talks to me, see my video, I hear voices. And this is a difficult video for me because there's undeniable proof at its very core level that Well, while Christianity was still in its infancy, the devil infiltrated it. I mean, really, it starts with Jesus' own disciples when Judas infiltrates them. And the devil hasn't stopped trying to do this, and he's been highly successful. And in these last days, it's hard to tell the church from the deep state, from the Wiccans, from the Satanists, from the Luciferians, from the Freemasons. And one thing they all have in common: they love their ceremonies.